Bust a Groove is a music rhythm game that was released on the PlayStation 1 back in 1998. It was developed by Metro and published by Enix in Japan. It was brought to the United States by 989 Studios and to Europe by Sony Computer Entertainment Europe. It's often considered as a hybrid of music and fighting games, showing inspiration from Parappa the Rapper with elements of head-to-head competitive play. Some fun trivia is that the Japanese version is titled Bust a Move, Dance and Rhythm, but to avoid conflicts with the puzzle game also called Bust a Move, the name was changed to Bust a Groove when it was released in other regions. There is a sequel, Bust a Groove 2, also for the PlayStation 1, however it wasn't released in Europe. The third game, which was called Dance Summit 2001, was only released in Japan for the PlayStation 2. I wanted to make this video because I had a lot of fun revisiting this game and also wanted to unlock core memories for those who've heard of it. Also, I did play this game on stream. If you're curious to see more of this game, there's a link in the description for the stream VOD. I do have one more core memory to unlock, but I'll save that to the end of the video. So before I go on talking about the first Bust a Groove game, I admit I never played the sequel. If you want me to check out Bust a Groove 2 on stream or a follow-up video, let me know in the comments below. Now let's move on to the actual gameplay. Basically, it's a one-on-one dance battle game, with whoever performs the best wins. The one-player mode is a series of 12 rounds showing off each stage and main characters. Also, there's a two-player versus mode as well. Each round lasts the length of a song. The main thing to pay attention to is the command display and the blinking of the beats. On the fourth beat, the player must hit the circle or X button, depending on the command, to perform a dance move. During the first 3 beats, you need to input directions, if any, on the D-pad. The directions don't need to be pressed within any specific rhythm, just have it all done before the 4th beat. Sometimes it does help to stay on rhythm, but with more complicated dance moves, I'm frantically rushing to nail all the inputs. By performing successful dance moves, you'll score points to be able to combo additional moves. If the player fails to successfully input the directions in hitting the circle or X button on the 4th beat, they will fail and need to start from the beginning. Below each player is an enthusiasm gauge, which fills up when successful dance moves are performed. As the gauge fills up, you'll be able to perform more harder moves in longer combos. So having a strong start at the beginning of the round and filling up that enthusiasm gauge is a key to victory. An important thing to note is that the command display typically gives you 2 choices. You'll see more options as that enthusiasm gauge fills up. The top choice is considered easier and worth less points than the more difficult bottom choice, so I would say to always go for the bottom option when given the choice. As the round goes on, there's no actual point system, however the game's camera will shift and focus on the player who's winning. Besides performing dance moves, you can also attack your opponent with a jammer by hitting the square button on the 4th beat instead. There are 2 jammers per round, and if used, you must hit the triangle button on the next 4th beat to avoid the attack. Landing a successful attack will cause your opponent to miss the dance move and force them to start over, after a little delay. One last fun thing about these rounds are solos, where the camera focuses on one player to perform a few dance moves. Depending on the stage, it can occur at different times or even more frequent, but will always be at the same point of the song for each specific stage. I think it adds a little cool flair to the game and allows focus on each character's and unique dance styles. Keep in mind, you can't launch an attack during these solos, but you have a few seconds of break time as your opponent performs their solo moves. Now to talk about one of the biggest parts of the game, the music. I love rhythm games ranging from Dance Dance Revolution to Guitar Hero. My musical taste tends to lean more towards rock. That being said, I really enjoy the soundtrack of Bust a Groove. Most of the game's soundtrack leans more towards hip-hop and dance music, although you can see influences of other styles such as disco and funk. Even though dance music isn't usually on my playlist, I think it fits so well with rhythm games like Dance Dance Revolution and Bust a Groove, and really like the music. I feel like the soundtrack, which I believe is all original, is one of the game's biggest strengths because it fits the games and characters so extremely well. I'm not sure if it's just me, but I find myself constantly thinking that the characters in the game are singing the lyrics of their own songs on the stage. Some of the songs can feel very tailored to the game, like for Shorty Stage, and some can be silly, even cringy, like for Ham Stage. In my personal opinion, I do feel that the songs for Kelly and Strike Stage are the weakest of the soundtrack. I would honestly say most of the songs are really good and they do stand out on their own without the context of the game. Some other things I want to gush about is that I really love the cast of characters and the designs. My favorites being Gas O and Kitty N. Some can feel a little generic like Heat, Frida, or Hero, but it works so well with the games that makes complete sense. Graphics wise, it's your typical PlayStation 1 game, but I think it still holds up today. Another fun thing is that when you perform well, the stage's background reacts. Usually it's showing damage like breaking screens or even the shack you're dancing in blows away. Something that's different about Busted Groove compared to other rhythm games is that you can't quote-unquote fail a song. You can still lose a round, but you might be able to change the tides in your favor and achieve victory, or at least hear the full song of the stage. Another thing I find amusing about Busted Groove is how you can see characters' dance style clash with different songs and stages. Sometimes it feels really out of place, like Shorty doing a kids bob-like dance at a club, or Heat breakdancing in a fast food restaurant. It reminds me of that South Park episode where they did a parody of You Got Served, where you see Stan's crew is square dancing or tap dancing to a hip hop song. I just find it silly and amusing. I also find it funny that when you miss while in the middle of a combo, your character snaps back into a default or tired state. There is an Easter egg about the game that when the characters Ham or Burger Dog land their attack 2 successful times in a round, which is squishing your opponent with a giant burger, it will flatten the opponent's model for the rest of the round. I thought it was the weirdest thing and it took me the longest time to know what was actually going on with the game. Even though I love Bust a Move and had a blast revisiting the game, I do have a few criticisms. I would have to say one of my biggest criticisms of Busted Groove is that the gameplay can be pretty repetitive. For the most part, all the commands are pretty much the same, but it can vary depending on how fast you can feel that enthusiasm gauge. There's also those branching choices for dance moves, however since the bottom more difficult option is worth more points, you would usually want to make the same choices. Besides the solo dance moves, which seem to be unique to each character, everything else is pretty much the same. Another nitpick is that the game doesn't actually show a score. The game's shifting camera does do a good job on conveying who's winning the dance battle, however I think it would still be cool to show at least the score. I think it would make replaying the game more fun to see a tangible score and results instead of just showing you that you won or lost the match. Again, I never played the sequel and don't know how it differs or enhances the gameplay, however I did read reception that it doesn't add too much to the first one. Let me know in the comments below if you do want me to cover Busted Groove 2. Now for unlocking another core memory. There was this online game back in the day similar to Busted Groove, I believe it was called Addition. Basically it has a group of players competing during a song, the players' avatars are basically male and female characters, kind of generic. Just wanted to mention that to see if anyone actually heard of this game, so let me know in the comments below, but it was like an online multiplayer game similar to Busted Groove. So in conclusion, Busted Groove is a fun take on the rhythm music genre. The head-to-head competitive nature makes it a blast to play, whether against a computer or other players. I do feel like the music is really great, however some tracks may not hold up that much outside the game. Like other music rhythm games, it can be very fun and addictive, even if just replaying the same songs over and over. It can be a bit repetitive, and honestly, you can get most of the game in just a few solid sessions of play, but it is great to revisit from time to time. It's a shame we haven't seen any more from the series in over 20 years, but it's definitely worth checking out. Also check out the link in the description below to see my stream VOD of Busted Groove, and thanks for watching.